Good morning, everybody. Lee Brower here, and welcome to this week's edition of Meaningful Monday. I am glad to be here and grateful. What a wonderful week I've had to be able to reflect on the things that matter most to me. The week started out with what we call Grandkids Camp, and this is where I got to spend time with my 5 oldest grandsons. We'll be doing the granddaughters later this summer, but we hiked up to a 220-foot waterfall. And among other things, we also went to the Museum of Natural Curiosity. We also did iFly and some surfing and some other fun things like that. But what a diverse group of grandsons. And what a fun time to spend time with them. And, more importantly, to focus in on what makes them unique. Several years ago in our family, we asked the question, what is a Brower? And our children wrote down, they were young kids at the time, and they wrote down, one of our children wrote 4 pages, another one wrote 4 lines. And but we kind of put them together, and eventually the word powerful came out of that. And Browers are powerful. And then we created nicknames or slogans like never underestimate the power of a Brower, or Brower Power. And that worked fine until we got some Watsons. Now that our daughters are remarried, we got Watsons and we got Clausens, and so they can't be Browers or powerful necessarily, but they can be Clausens or powerful and Watsons are powerful. And what powerful means to each of us is prayerful, obedient, worthy, eternal, reverent, forthright, understanding, and loving. And I'm sure that for each of us we have a different meaning because contextually around that based upon our own experiences, but nonetheless it brings us together. And it was fun to see our grandson say, I am powerful, I am prayerful, obedient, worthy, eternal, reverent, forthright, understanding, and loving, and to talk about that. So it was a marvelous start to the week. Those days are very precious and something that we'll continue to build on. And then just the work that I do. If enjoyment of how you spend your working hours was money, I would rival Bill Gates for being one of the wealthiest people in the world. I have the opportunity to work with some of the most brilliant, outstanding families on this planet. Families that think beyond themselves and truly want to make a difference. And what an inspirational opportunity and experience that is for me. And I'm just so grateful for it. And then the third thing is that in Strategic Coach, as most of you know, I'm a coach with Strategic Coach. And in the very first workshop, we do an experience called the Lifetime Extender. And the essence of that is to provide us a way to think about what would happen if we had a certain number of years where there was nothing scheduled on it. And depending on the person and what they're thinking, that can range from anywhere from 1 year to 25 or 30 years. When I did it, it gave me 15 extra years. But think about it. What if you had 5 or 10 years where you had no appointments, nothing entered in on it, and you had a clean sheet that you could put in there the things that you want to do most? Because the real discovery out of that is when you get into that mindset, when the things that you write down really determine and indicate who you are. So this has been such a great experience that I've repeated it several times. And this week I went back and thought very carefully about it again and said, if I had these extra years, what would I do with them? And so I'm going to share with you the things that I wrote down. And that's the way I feel about it now. I'm sure that they'll evolve and change and hopefully become grander as time goes on. But number one, at the core of, and I looked at it through the lens of true wealth. So from the core aspect, those things that matter most, and looking at that, at the heart of that is the relationship that I have with my wife. And of course, number one is the relationship I have with God. And so I see that as being part of being godlike would be to do something each day, that I'm not expecting anything in return, but to be able to cherish her each day for the rest of my life. And I would want to make sure that that was a critical part of those extra years for me. Secondly, to continue on the traditions with our family, the powerful traditions that we are establishing, like our grandkids camp, powerful traditions like Thanksmas and other things that we do together as a family that allows me to be in a leadership role, but together we're better in working with family. The third thing is to build the empowered wealth community. I see the Empowered Wealth community. If I had that time, I see it with over 10 million members, probably bigger than that, of like-minded thinkers that are bilingual, that have a common language, that talk to each other and work together. I see myself being able to have maybe still working with 20 highly influential, highly impactful families, but at the same time being free to go out and open up doors that will allow the message to spread, and to be able to be a thought leader and work on that with them. And speaking of thought leaders, that brings me to number 4 on the list. And one of the things that I enjoy very much is I have a pattern of being able to sit down with what I consider to be the world's great thought leaders. And I'm not talking about celebrities here, the ones that the press make the most popular. I'm talking about people who really get in deep and are thinking about world issues and how to make this planet better. And I've had the opportunity to sit down with people like, Coach John Wooden, one of the greatest coaches of all, was a cold call. I got his number and just decided to call him up cold, and that turned out to be one of the greatest relationships I've had in my life. He's been a tremendous mentor to me. And other people that I've met because I put it out there: Warren Buffett, George Tenet, the day that he resigned, and I had no indication. We spent time with him from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, learned an immense amount. He was cool, calm, collected, and shared with us some insights about what it was like to be the director of the CIA through 9/11 and what his vision of the future was. And the next morning, I saw on the news that he had resigned. And President Fox from Mexico on education and what's happening with that. And so I want to continue to be in that mix, to have those conversations. I see the Empowered Wealth Foundation and WACI growing with an emphasis on where not just putting money. I see it having $100 million endowed. What I really see, though, is me, my family, my closest friends, and those that are like-minded thinkers with our sleeves rolled up and actually in the trenches trying to make a difference in the area that I think is at risk. We lose so many of our greatest resources, young adults, that where the mortality rate hasn't dropped in 40 years, that we're losing to cancer. And young adults that we're losing to the disease of addictions. Great potential leaders, great, wonderful talents. And I see ourselves involved very intimately in trying to make a difference there and in that area. And then finally, I see myself what I call Spice Fit. And I define fit as forever interdependently thriving. And I use the word interdependently because I've come to the conclusion that independence, true independence, cannot come by yourself. You cannot become truly independent. It will never happen. You have to be interdependent upon God, higher sources, higher powers, interdependent upon with your family, your friends, and your like-minded thinkers. That's the way that you truly become independent. And I call it Spice Fit. Spice means spiritually fit, intellectually fit, spiritually fit. Let's get it right. Spiritually fit, physically fit, intellectually fit, culturally fit, meaning that you have a good culture around you of family and friends, and not friends that are on Facebook, but friends that you can call at 4 o'clock in the morning, or they will call you at 4 o'clock in the morning because they need you. And then economically fit. Again, financially interdependent and thriving in those 5 areas. And I see myself being accountable to those 5 areas on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. So that's my 5 areas. I ask you, now, if you had 5 years or 10 years with nothing on it, how would you spend your time? That's going to tell us who you are. That'll tell you who you are and what are those things that are most important to you. Then ask yourself this question: when do I want those years? Would I want them at the end of my life, or should I be doing something about putting them into my life right now? That's my challenge for you this week. Give it some thought. Have a meaningful week. I'll talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.